Hey there, I'm Teela with Deep English, and I'm so excited to share a lesson today on how to tell a great story in English. One of the best parts about today's lesson is that not only will it improve your English language skills, but it will also help you to tell a great story in any language. And when you can tell a great story, you can truly connect with the other humans in your life. So let's get started. Today's lesson is going to go through a few things. Number one, we will learn about the power of storytelling. Number two, we'll learn how to open a story in English. Number three, we'll learn how to transition through different events within a story in English. Number four, we'll learn how to end or wrap up a story in English. Number five, this is my favorite part, we'll learn a secret to telling a really compelling and interesting story. Number six, I'm going to share a story from my own life, and we'll see if you can pick out key words within the story. Okay, so let's jump right in. So, number one, the power of storytelling. Human beings have been telling stories since the beginning of time, maybe even before they could talk with their gestures. Storytelling is said to be humans' oldest art form. Our brains love stories so much that when we can make sense of the world around us in story form, there are reward centers in the brain that light up. So we tell stories to teach each other things, to express our emotions, to connect with each other. And so when we can make sense of the world around us in story form, it allows people listening to us to more easily connect with what we're saying. It's easier for them to remember what we're saying, and it's more fun for them to listen to what we're saying while we talk. So now that we know a little bit about the power of storytelling, let's talk about how to begin a story in English. Many stories in English begin after the question, "What happened?" is asked. So for example, if I'm in a conversation and someone asks me, "Teela, how are you?" and I say, "I'm okay, I'm feeling a little sad," they might ask, "Why? What happened?" And this is my chance to begin a story. So if someone asks you, "What happened?" it's your chance to tell a story. From this point, there are two things we should do. The first is to use a key word or phrase that lets our listeners know a story is about to begin. So we can use a word or phrase like one day, it all began when, initially, it all started when. Those are some really good ones. So from there, after we use a key word or phrase, we want to set the scene. So we want to let the listener know who is involved and where they are, so they can imagine the scene of the story. So, for example, I might start a story out like, "It all started when I was hiking." So right there, I used a key word or phrase, "It all started when," to let my listener know I'm beginning a story. And then I said, "I was hiking," when I was hiking. So I let them know the character, me, I'm involved, and they can imagine what I was doing. I was hiking, so I was in the woods. Okay, so now we've begun our story. Let's learn a little bit about how to transition from event to event within the story as it unfolds. So to transition from event to event, again, we want to use a few keywords or phrases. Some that are really great for this are words or phrases like then, when, let's see here, then, when, next, and suddenly. Suddenly is a really great one. So let's revisit our story. It all started when I was hiking, and suddenly the trail became very steep, and I tripped and I fell. Then, when I looked in my pocket, I noticed my phone was gone. After that, I searched everywhere. Okay, so you may have noticed I used the word then, after that, when, and also the word suddenly. So suddenly is an excellent word for us to use because it lets the listener know that something surprising and important is about to happen, so they should tune in and listen a bit more closely. So suddenly is a great word for you to use in a story. Okay, now let's learn how to end or how to wrap up a story in English. To wrap up a story in English, we want to use a few key phrases or words that let the listener know, okay, the story is about to end, so that they can disengage from the story. So words that are helpful to end a story are something like maybe in the end, or eventually, or finally, basically. So let's revisit the story we've been telling throughout our lesson today. It all started when I was hiking, and suddenly the trail became very steep. I tripped and I fell. Later, when I looked in my pocket, I noticed my phone was gone. After that, I searched frantically all over. I searched and I searched until it became dark. Eventually, it became too dark to see. In the end, I went home empty-handed and heavy-hearted. Okay, so to wrap up our story, I use the word eventually and in the end to let the listener know we're coming to the end of this story. All right, so now I want to share with you a little secret for making your stories really compelling and interesting. So one thing that I like to do when I tell a story is to involve words, to use words that show my emotion. So as I was telling this story, I used the word frantically and the word heavy-hearted. This lets listeners really feel what I'm saying. So more than just an experience of listening, now they're also having an experience of feeling, of kind of being there with me as I tell the story. And so that little trick takes your stories from something that is just understood kind of from a logical perspective to something that becomes an emotional experience and something that your listeners won't soon forget. All right, it's time for me to tell a story of my own. As I tell this story, see if you can identify key words and phrases that are important to storytelling. Okay, so one day I was at the train station in Chicago. I went to an ATM and I took out some money. Then I went and I sat down at a table. I noticed that there was a man sitting next to me and he was talking on the phone. So I decided to listen a little closer to what he was saying. I noticed that he was really upset and he was saying his wallet had been stolen and now he couldn't afford a ticket for a train home. Suddenly, I looked down and I noticed that he was wearing the exact same cowboy boots that my own father often wears. In this moment, I realized that he could be someone's dad. I was filled with so much compassion for him, and I decided that I would give him some money. It turned out that I had taken the exact right amount of money out of the ATM that he would need for his train ticket home. I walked over to him, I offered him the money, and he started crying and thanking me over and over again. In the end, this experience taught me that we are all in this together, and when we have a chance to support someone else, it is an honor and a privilege to be able to do so. Okay, I really enjoyed sharing this lesson with you today on storytelling. Remember, to begin a story, use a word or phrase that lets the listener know a story is about to begin. Also, set the scene. Draw your audience in so they can imagine where you are. Next, use words that will help you transition from scene to scene or event to event. Finally, use keywords or phrases that let the listener know that the story is coming to an end and that they can disengage. And if you really want to tell a compelling and engaging story, make sure that you include your own emotions or the emotions of the character as they move through the story. This will give the listener an actual experience of the story as it unfolds. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this lesson. I look forward to our next lesson together. See you later. Hey there, I know you thought we were done, but I just realized that you're all learning a lot about me and I don't know very much about you. So I would love if you would comment below and tell me something about yourself. Maybe where you're from or what your native language is, or maybe why you want to learn English. Comment below and tell me something about yourself.